diamond. Refuse to understand. Well, I don't think I understand why we're making such a fuss. And I don't think I understand what's come of all of us. And I don't think I understand why we take this world for granted. I just want to get right back to Guitar Players Planet. You see it in the papers, you read it every day. The riots and the fires going on in South LA. The muggers and the government, they're all wanting the same thing. They take you for your money and whatever else you bring. Well, I don't think I understand why we're making such a fuss. And I don't think I understand what's come of all of us. And I don't think I understand why we take this world for granted. I just want to get right back to Guitar Players Planet. Take me. Guitar Players Planet. Guitar Players Planet. Guitar Players Planet. Guitar Players Planet. Guitar Players Planet.
Hello!
Hey, oh no, it's a drive-by fruiting.
Sorry, I've been playing Mr. Mom all day.
Oh, that's not Mr. Mom, that's Miss Doubtfire.
Same thing.
No, Mr. Mom was Michael Keaton.
Yep.
Oh, and hanging the baby over the hand dryer. Hey, all right, so what's going on, guys? It's been a while. You know, I think I haven't spoken to you guys since last night. So I've been bouncing the airwaves past 3 days. You know what? And it's one thing where it's very rare where you have. Well, I have 3 clear nights in a row. So you know, I figure, you know, from now on, as long as I get the wife's blessing, of course, she says I could be online while I'm doing this instead of watching TV and with her and able to kind of do things with everybody, because there were a bunch of people on. There were definitely a bunch of a lot of the hardcore AstroWorld fans out there. So I appreciate you all coming on. You know, Tarek and Busy Bugs and George Lutch came on. I know I'm missing a whole bunch of other people. But you know, Tom Bramwell actually came on the show and hung out with me for an hour from Prima Luce Lab. So it was kind of cool. And you know, and the program that I used made it very easy. All you do is click on the link and you could go in a list of previews of people that are waiting to come on and ask questions, and I could just turn them on, turn them off, turn them on, turn them off. So it's kind of cool.
That's nice. This is the restream, right?
That's the Restream. Yeah, the program that I've been paying for a year and not using. Yes, that one. But Jason, our resident TV producer slash astrophotographer came up with a better solution. So we're using vMix now, and it's pretty awesome. So
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah, I've been
Especially
playing
for
with
what
it.
we're doing here for the show, it's awesome. But I think Restream also has its place, especially like for
it
one-on-one,
does.
like you were doing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know,
absolutely.
It definitely does. So
And
I
I
might even
believe
take
we're
a look into
actually.
that. That might be fun.
Yeah, you know what? The Restream, it works right from your browser, and it uses your webcam, and you get a URL where you could get up to 10 people in line to log into it, and you could have them either all on at one time, or I mean, all on one time with 10 people might look a little much, but
Look, rather.
yeah, but you're capable of doing 10 people, and hopefully your bandwidth is able to do it. But that being said, I mean, it's really, really simple, easy, and the beginning one just for that is $19 a month. So
That's not bad.
yeah, for that, it $20 a month. I spend more than that in coffee in a week.
Yeah.
So. But anyway, so we do have some stuff going on. I know it's 10 after 9. We started a little late, but I'm actually imaging tonight for the first time. I mean, I've done it the past couple of nights, but the first time on a Wednesday night in a long time. So I guess the easiest thing to kind of do right now is I already did a polar alignment, but I figured I did get a lot of questions over the last 2 nights regarding Polemaster versus Sharp Cap versus whatever other options that are out there, a regular polar scope bending over and breaking your neck and that kind of stuff. But I figured since a lot of people do have the Sharp, the Polemaster out there and Sharp Cap, I figured that I'm hooked up with Sharp Cap right now, and I figured I'd show a really quick kind of how it works, because I did get a lot of questions about it and how easy it is compared to the Polemaster, which I've used, and it was great. It was great, but it wasn't very user friendly. You gotta click on Polaris and then click on Polaris again, then line up the stars with the dots, and then click on Polaris again, then move the scope, then click on the star that's not Polaris, and then move the scope and click on the star that's not. And it's a lot of process.
It's a lot of steps. It's quite a few steps.
It's even though it's only like, it still only takes you about 5 minutes. It's just me being lazy. I just don't want to have to do all that. So Sharp Cap made it really, really easy. And the biggest benefit of using Sharp Cap, if you have, believe it or not, you can actually use the Polemaster camera with Sharp Cap now to do the polar alignment, which I don't know, kind of makes no sense, but whatever. But if you already have a Sharp Cap compatible either camera or guide scope or whatever, you're able to use Sharp Cap's ability to polar align. And I'll show it real quick. And I did a preliminary polar align already, so when the numbers come up and you see that that's really good for the first time, I kind of did it already. So I just wanted to give you a really quick overview on how it works, maybe like 5 minutes. So I'll share my screen here. And now you can see Sharp Cap. And in order to get into this, the first thing you need to do is connect your camera. So you go into cameras, pick your camera that you want. Right now I'm using the 178mm, okay, along with a 50 millimeter Evo guide. So the camera's already connected, and then under Tools, you just click on Polar Align, and then this screen will pop up.
Okay.
And I got a satellite going across that now. So. And there it goes. So it's going to give you a little bit of information here. And the one thing you want to pay attention to right here is this star detection data. Now, it's going to be different for every camera and every scope, depending on the sensitivity of your camera and your scope, the combination. So you're going to have to kind of play around with this a little bit so you get a good amount of stars. So right now, noise reduction I've set at 2. Minimum star width is 2 pixels. Maximum is 19 pixels. And then I have a black level threshold. So this is something you really want to pay attention to, because it tells you what black is black and what levels of gray you're willing to willing to accept based on the star color. So you want to kind of play around with this. It will give you errors. Like if I pump this up, it should give me an error saying that it can't detect any stars eventually. It's actually starting to drop frames now. It's 4 dropped. But it might give you an error saying check your settings in order to kind of get more guide stars. Okay, over here in the first frame, you're going to see how many detected stars and how many are being used to plate solve. Because what it's doing is it's plate solving right now to find out where you're at in the sky. You do have to start off within, I believe it's 5 degrees of Polaris to begin with. So it's like half a fist. Fist is about a 10 degree, when you put your fist out, that's about 10 degrees if you think about it.
Right.
If you use 2 fingers, or actually 2 to 3 fingers, that's about 5 degrees. So you want that polar scope, your guide scope, or whatever you're using, to be close to within 5 degrees. Now, it's also based on how much of a field of view you have. So if you have a large field of view, all you can do is basically aim at it, and you're going to be close. Because most people use a guide scope, or where it comes more finicky is if you're using an off-axis guider where you're guiding at 2,000 millimeters or more. That becomes a little bit more difficult. So as you're looking through this, it does need a minimum. I've gotten a solve with as little as 8 stars. To get something really in your benefit, you want 10 to 15 stars used. Right here, used stars. The ones in red are not being used in the plate solve. They're either too small or too large or not the right color based on the settings you have here. It's okay to have some red ones. It's not a big deal. Just as long as you have enough to plate solve, and it says down here if you're able to plate solve. Okay?
Okay.
I just want to make sure we don't have any questions as I'm going.
Mark was asking, I thought it used your main camera in OTA.
It can use any ASI camera you want to use. It doesn't matter what camera. Now, if you want a more accurate polar alignment while you're using a longer focal length, you could do that. That's not a problem. But I've been using my guide scope with my 50 millimeter, no problem. But you can use any camera you like, not a problem, and it works pretty damn good.
Okay.
Why am I not getting? I'm not getting any. There it is. I'm just trying to get the. And I'm just trying to get the YouTube. I thought it used your main camera, and that's it. Okay. So yeah, it'll use anything you want. But for me, especially when I'm imaging at only 400 millimeters, the guide scope seems to be working perfectly fine. I thought I'd mention that. It is a product of what you're really imaging at, whether how decent your polar alignment you want. So once you get it connected and once you get your scope connected and it's solved, you're just going to hit the next. Now, there is a button in the settings under the polar alignment settings where you can actually do an auto move, and whenever it solves, it'll go to the next one. Right here, automatically advance to the next stage when the current stage is complete. I just like hitting the button. It's not a problem. I'm a control freak, so I like hitting the button. So I'm going to hit next. And now it's going to say, now rotate the RA axis. So you're going to move it either on the east or the west. And you're going to do it. Right now it says, you can't read it all because this resolution on this monitor is horrible, but it says rotate further. Okay?
Yep.
So I'm going to pop this up. Wrong one. Sorry. This guy. I'm going to pull my EQ mod. And I'll unpark the scope, and we'll turn on the tracking. And I'm going to make sure, if you guys use EQ mod, you know what I'm doing, but this is your slew rate here. I have it at maximum. And I'm going to move it west, and you're going to start to see the stars move. So I'll move it west, and you'll see the stars move. And you basically just keep on moving it until this says status, okay, or solved, or whatever. So I'll stop it now. And it says completed. Okay, so something must have moved when I did. I must have a loose bolt somewhere because this should have been better. But oh, it's getting better as it gets more stars. So it'll be fine. See, now I'm at 55. Good. Now, once you get solved, it still says you can't be solved. So it's bouncing back and forth.
It's bouncing back and forth between it.
Yeah, so I'm gonna push my my exposure time up a little bit, and I'm gonna change the histogram a little bit, and see what we can get. There we go, 15 stars now, and that's not really where I want to be. It's okay for my focal length, but you really could get this under, 10 seconds easily. Okay, so all you do is hit next at this point, and then it's gonna tell you, right? Move it 1 minute 14 seconds. Down, move it 1 minute and 9 seconds.
Right.
You keep on moving it until you get 0 or close to it. You're never going to get perfectly 0. It's going to fluctuate based on your seeing. But as a matter of fact, Eric, if you want to kind of talk for a little bit, I'm going to do this because I'm not going to image with that.
Yeah.
Good
so basically,
line.
Yeah, because basically right now you have a couple of points that you were showing. Where it's basically looking at a star, then you need to move your Alt-As bolt and your to either to the left or the right, or up or down. So, and it's pretty easy. So once you get them into that area, it'll basically tell you, and then it's like it looks almost like a kind of like a cross in a way. And once you get it lined up onto that particular star that it's looking at, that it wants you to align to, then it'll start getting, your time is going to get lower and lower, and you're going to get down into the arc seconds or sub-arc seconds, and then you're basically aligned and you're all set, and then you're good to go. So while Dan is doing that, one thing that I was always talking about, and with SharpCap, one of the cool things about SharpCap is the live stacking feature. And I know Dan's going to show that a little bit in a second, and we'll talk about that a little bit more. But, and there go the puppies. So he went outside for a little bit. But with live stacking, one of the cool things is what we call EAA, which is another form of astronomy, or it's called electronic assisted astronomy, which is one thing I wanted to talk about. And the reason why I wanted to talk about it and want to do this is for, one, as I get older, and when people get older, your eyes, they start to wane, and it gets a little bit more difficult if you're doing visual astronomy to use eyepieces. And also, I wanted to get my kids involved into astronomy. And this is an electronic assisted astronomy, or EAA, is a great way to basically get your kids or anyone using this in outreach or anything to get them really involved in astronomy and get them to really see those, these deep sky objects that we're photographing and that we're looking at through eyepieces. Get them that it's almost like quick instant gratification was the word I was looking for. And you do that through basically substituting your eyepiece for a camera. And then you begin using live stacking in SharpCap, and using video to start building an image of the DSO that you want to look at and you want to display. And then eventually you can also end up saving that image because you can add darks. In SharpCap, you can add darks. Then you can also, if you wanted to, you can add flat frames, and you can begin all of your stacking, and you can do a little bit of processing and messing with your histogram to get a really nice image, and then you can save out that image and you can actually display it. So I'm going to be starting to do and learn EAA, but I'm also going to, instead of using SharpCap, I'm going to probably start with SharpCap, but I'm also going to use the ASI Air, because the ASI Air also has this live stack feature now, the ASI Air 2, the ASI Air Pro, and you can do this live stacking and be able to actually see your images and they begin to stack one another. So you can set it up to, you know, get images of 10 seconds, 20, however long you want, and they'll begin to stack up on top of one another, just like you would with any of your usual processing, and begin to get an image. And right behind me, that's why I brought out this guy behind me, is I'm going to use for my setup and for my EAA. And I'm really excited to try this out. So I'm going to be using the Rasa. That's the Rasa 8 for anybody who doesn't know. And it's an f2 astrograph, and so it's very fast. So I'll be able to take images of just, you say, 10 seconds, or even, you know, 10 seconds and maybe a little bit longer than that, and begin to stack these images on top of one another to end up getting, you know, a really good shot of, say, Orion, for example, or now we're in galaxy season, say M101 or M51 or any other galaxies that are out there. But the really cool thing is that you can then see this on a screen. You can see it on either your laptop if you're using SharpCap, or, you know, or if you're using ASI Air, you can end up showing it on your smartphone or your tablet or anything like that. And that's really cool for kids to really get into and involved with astronomy, because now, instead of fighting or not able to see the image through the eyepiece because maybe their eyes aren't acclimated to the night sky yet, or, you know, maybe it's a little too faint or anything like that, or whatever reason, or seeing conditions, now through electronic assisted astronomy and using that screen to begin in that live stacking software, either ASI Air Pro or SharpCap, or there's others, now you can be able to see that image within a minute or two. With the Rasa, I think it's going to be even better because that's at f2. And I've got on it, I'm using the 530. I'm going to use the 533 MC one-shot color camera, which, according to astronomy.tools, and I'm looking at the compatibility, this is going to be supposedly a great setup for EAA. You can even use a 294 or 190 or 183, but I'm going to use the 533, and I can't wait to really use it. And I'm going to actually get it mounted onto my Celestron AVX mount, which is an entry level mount, but doesn't have the greatest, you know, tracking, like, say, compared to my CEM60. But for EAA and doing short exposures, it's not going to have a problem. You know, I really won't be even guiding or anything like that, or using auto guiding. It'll just, you know, be these short exposures stacking to the top of one another. So, but Dan is back. So you got everything aligned?
Yeah. So seeing is a little bit weird tonight. It looks like it's bouncing back and forth a little bit between excellent and good. But I'll go back to the screen share again, and you can see now that the polar alignment error is bouncing back and forth between good and excellent. That's a product of the seeing that I have in New York, or maybe a little gust of wind or something like that. But as you can see, mostly it's bouncing back and forth between excellent and good and less than 30 seconds. So I could take that for now at my focal length. But when you have more weight on your mount, your weight down, and if you have better seeing, not on Long Island, you will get a little better. Usually I get this kind to stick around, usually at about, I don't know, 6 to 20 seconds. Anything in excellent is usually pretty good. And I did it fairly quick just for this show. I just tried to do it a little quicker. And the focal length lets me get away with it a little bit more. So once this is done, you don't need SharpCap anymore. So I'm just going to turn SharpCap off now.
Yep.
Okay. And we'll get sequence. We'll minimize this guy because we won't need him anymore. And then for those of you that use Sequence Generator Pro, you'll recognize the user interface here. I have it set up a little bit differently. But we got mostly the image histogram is usually always on the top left. That's where it starts off by default. I just left it there. I have image statistics if I want to know some ADUs of the picture. I'll have my PhD2 graph, and here I'll have my temperature for my camera cooler. If I want to zoom here, there's a pan and zoom here. Then it has my sequence summary on the right. I'm not doing the dark shark right now. It's just that's what that left at. That was that sequence that I did the dark shark and narrowband. That's when I stopped it. So focuser, rotator, where the telescope's at right now, and the frame and focus. So let's talk a little bit about sequencing. Let's get the sequencing back up. Okay. And this is your overall sequence. Now, if for you ASI Air users, you have something, I believe it's called Auto Run. It basically does the same thing. When you hit on that, you'll have access to put your lights, your darks, your bias, how many, how long, and all that, what binning.
Exactly. Set your filters and all that's in your exposure time. Yep.
Yeah, so it's the same thing here, except it just looks a little bit differently. It's right here on the bottom. Okay? Don't worry about all this stuff here yet. That's for another time. But for basic usage, right here is where you're going to be doing a lot of your work. So it's what kind of frame do you have? Is it a light, dark, flat, or bias? There is nothing for flat darks yet. They're working on it. But if you're using flat darks, you should be using dark.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. If you're doing any filters, you could list whatever filters you want. In this situation, I just have, because I don't even know why any of these filters are on here for this. I think I copied it from somewhere, but this is a one-shot color camera. But if you're using a mono, you can put as many filters as you want, as many filters as your filter wheel can accommodate. You can make your own suffixes. Suffix meaning what are you going to do at the end of the file name? So what are you going to call it? Is it a bias? Is it a red light? Is it a flat red? Is it a blue light? Is it a flat blue? Whatever you want to do. You can put anything or nothing. Don't ask me how this Japanese thing got in here. I don't know. I didn't put it there. I don't write Japanese. I don't know how it got in there. All of a sudden, it just was there.
Hackers.
I'm telling you, killing me. They already hacked my Facebook account. I mean, they got to hack my SGP now. But exposure, how many? There's some quick picks here. Set seconds that you could do, or you could do any seconds you want. You do 30-minute shots if you want. If you want 40-minute shots, you just got to put the amount of seconds you have up here. I'm taking 4-minute shots right now, so I had to put 240 seconds, 4 times 60. If you're doing any binning, and how many frames you want to take. Okay, so we're going to go, I'm imaging the Leo Trio right now. So I'm going to highlight that, and I'm actually going to reset the sequence because this was from last night. We'll go back to the Leo Trio. We'll go to light. See, like right now, I have no suffix because I'm just doing RGB tonight. So I'm not worried about any kind of descriptor for it because I know it's a light frame with my color camera. So I don't have to worry about any of that stuff. I'm taking a 5-minute shot for this. And I think it's going to be clear tonight. So this is set for 4 hours. That would put me to, what is that, like 1 o'clock in the morning? So I want more than that because I'm going to let it run all night. So I'm going to do, how long is that? Tells you right here what the remaining time is. 8 hours and 53 minutes. Okay, 8 hours and 53 minutes would put me just about 9 hours would be 6 o'clock. Might be a little too much. So let's do 90. And that changes that to...
One thing, and Dan, here's one thing that I've been bouncing off, it's been bouncing in my head a little bit, and I've been watching some YouTube videos. And even with me with using SharpCap, when do you, or how do you personally determine your exposure length? Because, it can be all over the map as far as recommendations on how long your exposures should be. But how do you determine your exposure length? Because you're in like a Bordeaux 8, Bordeaux 9 sky.
Yep.
So usually for something like that, would you, and I don't want to get too far off of, what you're doing with SGP.
No, it's all good.
But wouldn't that length of time probably start to saturate your because of the light pollution.
Yeah, like I'll show you.
Would that begin to saturate your lights a little bit? I mean, if you were in darker skies, I would figure you would be able to expose a little bit longer. But with you having such light pollution, you may not want to expose as much.
I'll show you.
Light.
Let's see if I can pull it up real quick. I hope it watches this. So let's see, astrophysics and raw data and ES80, SCD 100, 294, Leo triplet, light, and I'll show you the difference. I did take a 2-minute shot a couple nights ago, and I took a 5-minute shot last night. So you'll be able to see the difference. So I'll pull this up. This is one 5-minute shot, and I'll start sharing again. Give me a second. Now you got to remember, this is a non-stretched. So when you're talking about saturation, you want to look at a non-stretched picture, right?
Correct.
Okay, so if you sit there and super stretch it, and I'll do the share again. Hold on a second, if I get. Where's the share? Share screen and screen 1, and share that. And we're gonna have like craziness going on. Okay, and okay, so that is a 5-minute shot. Unstretched.
Okay. Unstretched.
Okay. Unstretched. So there's not a lot of saturation going on there. And the background doesn't look that bad. Okay, now let's open up the 2-minute one. And I got a lot of stuff going on here. Astro acquisition, raw data, and Leo triplet light, and here's a 2-minute shot. Okay, so let's take a look at it. Let me just make sure that this is, take that off. Okay, so 2-minute shot on the right, unstretched. 5-minute shot on the left, unstretched. Okay, now, is it saturated? Well, let's take a look at this star. It's almost exactly at 1%. But if you look at the galaxies, not even close to being saturated, even at the core. Even at the core there, 40%.
Okay.
Here, the core is at 11%.
11%.
So am I going to have some issues with the 5-minute in post, trying to get some of the gradients out? Maybe. But just remember that this is also my first one-shot color project that I'm really paying attention to. So we'll see how bad this 5-minute shot, because I'm doing 5 minutes tonight too. So I'm going to take all the 5s and see what I get. And if DBE could take out a lot of the gradients that I'm seeing, I did if I could show you real quick, if I could find it, I think it's under completed images. This picture here, where is it? It's under C, completed images, M101. So the picture that I'm going to show you is 5-minute shots, about 3 hours worth. From my backyard.
Wow.
Okay, so, and this was my first one-shot color kind of like little data image. Actually, no, I'm sorry. This is not one-shot color. This is RGB with my filters. Okay. So, I mean, I could get decent shots with this and still able to keep my background pretty neutral at that exposure length. Now, I'm curious to see how much that 5-minute shot is going to change with the one-shot color. And it's just a trial and error at this point. But as far as if I was to judge my picture right now, I mean, 5 minutes right now, I would take it right now and I probably wouldn't go much more than that. I might even drop it down to 4, to be honest with you.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, even now if I want to do an HDR with this, I could do the 5-minute and the 2-minute, dump them together if it becomes too saturated.
Sure.
To bring it down a little bit.
Okay.
So why don't we do that? Why don't we, let's see, let me switch my camera now. And we'll switch back to SGP. And then what we'll do is we'll lower this to 4 minutes again, because that seemed to work pretty well. And that's going to change my remaining time also. So the remaining time is now 6.5 hours. So 6.5 hours would be just put me over, let's see, 14. That'd be about 5 o'clock. So we're going to connect the camera, and it's going to give me an error. And then we're going to connect the focuser and make sure that the manual rotator is connected, because I have the manual rotator. And we will run the sequence. And it'll say the current temperature, delay the start, because I want the temperature to be cooled to -10. So now it's going to open up the guiding and start, and we're off to the races.
Nice.
And that's really, really it. I have this set up pretty well. This is actually going to do a calibration again first, so it may fit. Sequence Generator Pro, sometimes if the calibration takes too long, will say, well, the guider never started. That's okay. Let it continue with your calibration. When it's done with the calibration, hit resume sequence, and it will take back off where it left off. So don't worry about that. But other than that,
so with Sequence Generator Pro, it'll run your PhD guiding. It'll start the calibration and everything. Is that as well, or would you have to do that yourself?
Nope. I'm hands free. That's it.
Nice.
But you know what I didn't do? Yeah. If you could take a look at it, let's see if this curve moves. Yeah, I think I left a nut on my focuser. Oh, I think I left the tightening bolt on. Give me a second.
Yep. That looks quick though, but yeah, we'll see how that goes. So, one thing is like with ASIR, very similar with SGP, is that it will, once you get things set up, it will do everything for you. You can kick off your, especially when you're doing your auto run, and say you've already started your guiding and everything like that, especially after Meridian Flip, it'll recalibrate and find your guide stars and get you guiding again. One thing I am looking forward to, and I'm sure it's in the pipeline at some point, is what I've been hearing about with PhD2 on the PC is multi-star guiding. So I'm sure eventually that'll come to, they'll figure that out and they'll bring that to the ASIR. But I've heard really good things, Jason, on the multi-star guiding to help improve your guiding numbers and your accuracy, tracking accuracy. So,
well, I can't speak to those rumors, but there may be validity to it. But overall, I know a lot of the people with the latest couple of releases of ASIR have been having issue with guiding. It's a known issue. They're in the process of fixing it, and I'm hoping to see a beta by the end of the week, beginning of next week, that should have a few of those fixes in there. A couple of the dev team testers are reporting that guiding is considerably better with multiple different mounts.
What errors have you been hearing about?
Well, it just really erratic guiding. I used to be consistently with my CEM40 and CEM70Gs. I was usually in the ballpark of 0.6 to 0.8. Now it'll get down to 0.6, but it usually hovers around the 1.0, 1.2. And my seeing hasn't changed drastically. I've got a little bit better guide scope and camera, but I just haven't had that stable I'm getting a lot of fluctuation in my graph, and initially I thought it was balanced, so I went nuts and started like going really anal on my balancing. Because with the CEM mounts, you want to be perfectly balanced, not justified balance. And that's worked pretty well for me. It's been a bit of a task to figure out how to get that perfectly balanced, and like everything, there's a lot of people who have opinions on how to do it. I've come up with a couple different solutions, but the one that's sticking right now is using quarter 20 threaded ballast weight for gimbals.
Okay.
They come in 50, 100, and 200 gram increments. Finding places to bolt that onto the mount, and it's been working really well.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, it's for me. With the CEM 60, one thing that's always, at least for right now, is I've always gotten sub, arc second guiding numbers, and it's usually 0.8 or lower. I've gotten as low as 0.3 or 0.4. But one thing that I have noticed, especially now with me using the 152, and I ended up because I have the 120 Mini and I have a 290 Mini, and I'm using the ZWO off-axis guider, and it's not of course, with an OAG, it's not the best. So I did decide just a few days ago, I ordered the 174 Mini because it has a larger sensor, and I was told that that's the best one for off-axis guiders. So I'm looking forward to getting that and getting that into my OAG and seeing how that improves things.
It's a much better camera for really long focal length.
Yep. And that's what I've got.
Especially if you're doing the OAGs. But
yeah.
Like with the Rasas, it's not going to help you.
No, not with the Rasa,
yeah.
but with like my 152. That's what I'm going to be using.
Yeah, it'll be perfect for that.
It'll be perfect for that because that's over 1,200,
1,215. Yeah.
Yeah. But no, then I'll use my 290. I'll put my 290 back on the Rasa.
Yep.
And it'll be perfectly fine with its 30 millimeter guide scope.
Yeah, with my rig, when I was using the 152, I was using the 290 Mini. It had good guiding, sub 1.0, even with the fluctuations because of the ASI error, but it looks like Dan's back with us.
So you've noticed those fluctuations too with the ASI error?
Oh, yeah.
With the guiding and
Yep,
everything.
I've been fighting it since 1.51 came out, and they've been chasing it. They're aware of it. I don't know what they changed, but they did admit that they had some issue. It wasn't drastic enough because anything sub 2.0 was fine for anything I was doing. Every once in a while I get a little bit of a bloated or distended star, but overall it wasn't too bad.
Yeah, and that's sometimes what I've been fighting was, those slightly bloated or slightly elongated stars and stuff like that. So I've got to deal with that too. And the one thing I did notice that my deck was kind of getting screwy. And to your point, like you're talking about these central balance mount, they have to be almost perfect.
Yep.
They basically have to be perfect. And I was noticing like I was getting a little slightly camera heavy on the camera heavy side on the deck. And I think that had something to do with it. And so I'm going to hopefully, once I'm able to get back out here when the weather clears up, I'll be able to have this 174, get that going, and then I can rebalance and see how things do. So, how'd it go, Dan?
Oh, sorry, you guys are talking. I don't want to interrupt. So right now it's actually going through it focused fine. I'll get back on the screen share.
So you fixed your nut?
Yeah, I fixed my nut is fixed. I guess we're getting Facebook chats here. Charlie Walsh is online. He's asking me if I could hear him. How could I hear you? Oh, no, that's you, Jason. What are you doing? Charlie Walsh, I was going to say something to... Oh, you were going to say something about me taking a 5-minute exposure. So it's actually doing a spiral search right now on to find out where where I'm pointing, it's doing a plate saw. For some reason, it's taking a little bit longer than normal. Should find it eventually. It usually doesn't take this long. Of course, when I'm on the show, it takes long. Usually, it's within like 200 searches, and this one's taking a little bit longer than expected. But it'll find it eventually, hopefully. And then what it's going to do is it's going to take a picture, and it'll take a picture again and see where where you should be pointed. And if you're not pointed in the right spot, there you go, found it, 703 regions. So it was way off. For whatever reason, it could have been when I was just playing around outside. It's going to close, and then it's going to say, okay, and it's going to tell me to run outside and rotate the camera now. So hopefully it's still set up from last night, that I didn't move it too much when I took it off the mount, and we'll see. And play match found in one region now because it found it, it moved, it recognizes where I'm at, I'm pointed in the right spot. And now it's judging the rotation of the camera. And come on, don't make me go outside again, please. Please, it's a long walk. I'm old. I don't want to walk. And play
That's why you got to be like
again.
the lazy astronomer, and you don't have to go out there but once. Get this done.
Yeah, well, if Prima Luch ever comes out with the Arco, I won't have to go out anymore. So, oh, good. It's still set from yesterday. It moved on. There was no rotation errors, or it was within the 3 degree tolerance that I told it could go in, and now it's resuming the auto guider. It says down here, resuming the auto guider.
Yep.
Okay, and we'll go then. Now it's actually doing the calibration. West step 1. There is an option in if you don't know where it is in PhD 2 guiding to use the calibration from the last time you calibrated to, where is it? Auto restore calibration.
Sure.
So it'll auto restore your last calibration. I personally don't like to do that because your guiding is going to be different if you're choosing different targets. If you're choosing the same target, I don't see why you can't auto restore. But if you're doing multiple targets in a night, I would tell you to let it go its calibration after it switches targets.
Yeah.
And that's the best practice that they actually say with most of the ASIR gurus and the dev team with ASIR. They have the button there for people that want it, but they prefer you to not do an auto restore. They want you to redo that calibration every target.
Yep. So yeah, I leave that unchecked. So that's why cal down here is red, because it's waiting for it to finish the calibration. And this takes a little time because I am shooting at a lower focal length, so it needs to move a certain amount of pixels in order to get a good calibration. So we'll stop the sharing now until it's done, and when we have something to show you. So basically all it's doing really is going back and forth and judging how much the star moves so it can make the corrections to your mount based on how much the star moves, so what the correction needs to be.
Right.
And that's it. So I mean, last night I was guiding somewhere between 0.8 and 1.0, so which isn't my personal best. But with the seeing, I'm okay with that. Again, when the bottom line when you're guiding, and a lot of people get a lot of lockdown, and you guys can chime in please on this, that a lot of people get locked down with the graph.
Yep.
Yes.
And the number. A lot of people say, "Oh my God, my guiding sucks. I'm over a minute. What's going on?" And I must be a wire snag or a gust of wind, and people get really mad. And I understand that, and I get it. People, guiding.
They're chasing the numbers.
Yeah, and it's like you want, a lot of astronomers and astrophotographers out there are perfectionists. They want their things to be their picture of perfection may not be your picture of perfection, but a lot of people want everything right, and they have a number in their head about it's got to be under 0.5 or else my stars are going to look like eggs. That's not true. you got to know what type of sky you're dealing with. If you're seeing like Long Island is like, 2 arc seconds. If you're guiding under that, your stars are going to be fine. They're going to be fine. I'm sorry, 2 arc minutes. My bad, not 2 arc seconds. 2 arc
seconds. If you're under 2 arc seconds, I need to move where you're at.
I'm sorry. I'm not in Death Valley, So 2 arc minutes, But Long Island seeing is about 1.5 to 2 arc minutes.
Yeah.
And if I'm guiding it, you can take. I have a sky quality meter that I could use, and I could judge the SQM on that. And there is a spreadsheet on there that will judge your seeing. I believe it's. Let me think. It might be on Celestial Wonders. I used it a while ago. I really don't remember what website it was. I can find out in a second. But it'll judge your seeing and what your resolution of seeing is in the area that you're living. So.
Okay, that's good to know.
The new Eagle 4s have a SQM already built in.
Yeah. Yeah, the eye.
The eye.
Yeah, the eagle eye.
See, like right now, my guiding just started. And 4 iterations, it's a bit early. It looks very flat and very nice. We'll wait for it to go through a full cycle, and then I'll show it to you.
And that's what I used to do. I used to do that, man. I used to chase the graph. It wasn't always necessarily the numbers, because my numbers were usually pretty good. It was chasing the graph, because you look at other YouTubers who are showing, like say Chuck, and and every once in a while he's gone through, he'll go through his guiding, like he'll show his guiding where his guiding's at, and it's nothing but it looks like you're dead. It's just a flat line.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jason.
Like that.
Well,
I've got like 0.5, arc second.
There's ways to cheat that.
I was gonna say that. There it is.
So you have to look at their scale.
Yes.
So this is the thing I'm gonna.
Yes.
So ASI Air locked us out of that. So ASI Air used to allow you to choose the scale. Now the scale auto chooses for you, based on the amount of travel that the graph is currently doing. The original graphs, you could tell it, I want plus and minus 8. Well, when you've got a skew this big and you're only moving 0.1, that thing's going to look really flat and beautiful. Yeah. But if you're looking at a plus or minus 2, that thing's going to look like a freaking, cardiac, heart monitor.
Like what I did, what was it, the other night? If you were watching, I was trying to guide, and Sequence Generator Pro was set at the wrong profile, so it thought I was using a 120 mini and a ZWO mini guide scope, but I was really using a 178 and the Evo 50, and so my graph looked like I was having a cardiac event, and it was crazy, but
and for the ASI Air users, we show the correction, so you can look at the RAN deck corrections. That's what I look at. If it's getting really heavy correcting on one side, then I start looking at what's wrong. Is my weight imbalance? Is it hooked on something? Do I have wind? If I'm seeing a lot of correction all of a sudden to one side or the other, then I go, okay, things are starting to look a little wonky. But other than that, I look at the numbers. I don't look at the graph, because if you get so wound up in the graph, it just drives you nuts.
Yeah,
I guess.
And for me, it's like I said, I used to chase that stuff, but I have begun to understand that it's not about the numbers, it's about the stars.
Yeah.
Look at your stars, and I believe George made that same comment, in the chat here on the YouTube, was like, don't look at the numbers, look at the stars.
Yep.
So I have begun to say, all right, because you could have maybe some awful numbers in most people's eyes. You could be, really high, like maybe in the ones, 1 arc second or just above, or in the 2s. But you got to look at your stars. And if your stars are nice and round and stuff like that, then what matters? That's all that matters.
Well,
and that's the thing that I try to push people to, because everybody's complaining about that on the ASI forums, and they're like, "Oh my God, the guiding's all over the place." I'm like, It may not be perfect. It may not be the best the mount can do, but as long as you're under about 1.5 for most setups, especially with the reflectors, or sorry, refractors, you're not going to have that. It's not going to play that big of a thing if you're under two arc minutes.
Yeah. So like my guiding right now is, and I'm gonna show you guys real quick. So the cheating thing that Jason was hoping to be able to show you, but I can't because right now I'm guiding at 0.5. So I'm gonna show you real quick on what Jason was talking about. Now, if you're looking at the screen, this is not what my scale normally looks like. This is way too wide, so it's gonna look like your line is basically flatlined. I mean, it looks really, really great, right? However, if you lower the scale and lower how many
take it down to 50 and
take it down to 50 and take 2. It down. I do 4. So this is what I normally look at.
Yeah.
Okay, so you can see there, you can see the peaks and valleys there, and it doesn't look too bad. It looks like I got a little bit more RA adjustments than I do deck for right now. But for the most part, I mean, I'm okay with, I'm at 0.52 total right now.
And for those of you guys that aren't catching it, the blue and white, or sorry, the blue and red bars that are in there are actually the corrections. So that's where the mount is pulsing to make it respond in that direction.
Correct.
So that's what I'm referring to when I'm looking at that on my ASI air graph, because we see essentially the same thing. Because it's using the same base code. It's been altered for the Raspberry Pi, of course, being a different operating system, but the principles are all the same.
Yep.
So
that's the guiding right now. What's that?
I said, no, those are fine numbers, what you got going right now. I mean...
Oh, this is way, I could, if I wasn't doing RGB, I'd be doing like 15-minute narrowbands right now, because 20-minute narrowbands, because my guiding is just pretty damn good right now.
Yeah.
So, that being said, I think we're coming up with our first picture, actually, 3 seconds away. And here comes the first picture. And it's very bright. And again, but if you take off the stretch, that's what the stretch looks like. That is the photo that I'm going to be stacking. I am not going to be stacking this.
Right.
That is an artificial stretch. So if my base picture looks like that, I think I'm going to be okay.
Now, let me ask you this: how do you personally determine how many exposures are enough? Because there's always that number where you say, okay, my return of is
it just stops.
It just
the return on investment. Yeah, there's like kind of like
basically, yeah.
You know what? I'll be dead honest with you. I don't have. Let me turn this off real quick and get the.
Well, I won't speak for Dan, but I know 3 weeks ago we were talking about the software that you can basically put in your camera, put in your filters, put in what you're doing, put in your target, and it'll give you, based on the amount of signal to noise ratio that you're looking for, or the things you're willing to accept as quality, it'll give you a range. So it's a good baseline.
Yeah, so that's from Sky Tools.
Yep, Sky Tools 4.
Because I also use, because we talked about SharpCap, that I've used the smart histogram.
See, and that's something that I would love to get into, because I never played with that. And I know that you actually spoke about it on a number of shows, and you've said nothing but good things about it. As a matter of fact, Robin Glover emailed me today. He said, "Hey, Dan, you paid for your license twice in 2 days?" I said, "I did. I was expiring yesterday."
So 10 years now?
Well, yeah, so I said, you know, you could have just given me a 2-year license. You didn't have to refund me the $15. But
Right.
you know, I gladly pay 30 for 1 year for that program.
Oh
But,
yeah,
you know,
absolutely.
that's not a problem. But I never. Now the smart histogram, that's got to be done on the side. You can't be doing anything while doing that. It's actually got to judge everything,
you
right?
cannot. No.
Yeah.
No, you can't.
Maybe I'll do it tomorrow night and play with it and see. I'm not gonna, you know, I don't know if I'm gonna do it
Because
today.
you have to do it all in steps. Because first you have to go through the sensor analysis, so it
Yep.
analyzes your sensor, and then you can then go to your smart histogram, and then you point to an area of the night sky, a dark part of the sky. Not dark.
I don't have a dark part of the sky.
Yeah, no, sorry. Not as much nebulosity or anything really there. And then you let it analyze your brightness, and it'll start calculating. And you can use it on. I've used it on all my different filters, and it just goes through, and it goes through different gains. And it goes through different checks. And so, like, I just did it on my 152. And with 294 mono, and it came back and gave me some numbers. And basically right now, from what I was looking at, so here, I'll just share my screen here really quick. So basically with me we're using the ED152, and I'm using the 294 mono. It's basically was telling me that for minimum, the minimum exposure to get this, was about 21 on using my L Pro, about 21 seconds per exposure, per light. Reds, I don't understand this. It got crazy long on my RGB. But for the most part, it was telling me my total time that I would need to take for each filter was around 7,200 seconds. So that's what, 2 hours?
Yeah.
So I would average on every filter, it would be basically 2 hours on every filter. And then you can decide on that based off of maybe conditions or your guiding or whatever else. Then you can then go and maybe divvy that up. That 2 hours up on your exposure times, based your gain, and number of exposures you're going to use. So if here, for example, I was looking at, all right, I could do 24 5-minute exposures. And it even gives you a minimum number, a recommended number. So so for here, I was like, okay, 24. So on an average, I can do between 25 to 30. And when you're doing when you're stacking and everything, they say usually for everything for your stacking software, you want to get at least a minimum of 20 exposures for your stacking software and the Sigma and the Windsor clipping and everything like that to, process pretty fairly. So right now I'm looking at, okay, you can, as long as I'm within the 2 hours, they're saying that 2 hours, you can divide this up however you want. But they're saying, and the goal is to keep the, your exposure time. They're saying anything beyond that 2 hours, you're not getting any more value out of your exposure time, or if you're, out of your session. Because if you go, say, to 6 hours or anything like that, it's not going to make a difference beyond those 2 hours, at least according to SharpCap and what Robin Glover's saying.
Okay.
So something, just to think about. So, yeah.
Yeah. So that seems like it works well.
I'm going to try it because it's a lot of times, like I've said before, it's a guideline or it's a really good reference point. So maybe at my next session, I'm actually going to go for, all right, I'm just going to do 2 hours, but, and see how it goes. and compare that to my other shots or sessions that I've done. And say, oh, yeah, do I see any real difference, through my signal to noise ratio, anything like that? And do I have is there any actual value in going beyond those 2 hours? And it also depends on your telescope as well and your optics, because this all can change. So, because if I did the same thing with the Rasa, it'll give me different numbers. So it all depends on what you're using.
Yeah, and that's the big thing. So, when you're sitting there and you're, and you have 17, 18, 19 hours worth of data, when you're doing narrowband, like a narrowband image, you really got to sit there and look at it constructively and say from night to night. So if you want to I use a baseline of about 17, 18 hours of narrowband data, and then I say, okay, now I start to look at it reflectively and say, hey, maybe, another night is not worth it.
Right.
And maybe it is. So I'll take that next. When I start to see at 17 hours or so, or 15 hours, depending on how bright the object is, because the brightness of the object makes a super big difference. Like, I'm not going to do 15 hours of H alpha on the California nebula. It's going to be crazy. But if I'm doing something like, let's say, the monkey's head, like Jason's working on, I may want that extra data because there's a lot more
fine detail
composition in there. There's a lot of different stuff going on.
And to your point there, it also, like we were talking, it also depends on your location, because if you're in a highly lighted, polluted area, you may not want to take as long of exposures, than you could if you were in, say, a Bortle 3 area, where you could take longer exposures because you get back, and you can get that signal, and because you're not fighting that extra light or anything like that, so you can image longer and get that extra detail out of it.
Well, and my less scientific method of this is actually something I know Mark's done quite a bit, and where I picked it up from. I spend hours on AstroBin. Once I pick a target that I want, I go in and start keyword searching on AstroBin. So that's how I got my recipe for monkey's head. I found a guy that happened to have all of my components short of my scope, but he was shooting narrowband. He was shooting the same ZWO filters that I had. He was shooting a 1600 mm that I'm using. He was shooting in a Bortle 6. Those are all the same components that I'm dealing with here. So I'm at a longer focal length because he was on a 102. So he was at like 840 millimeter. I'm at 910. But I used his base. I added 5 to 20 additional exposures over what he did, so that I had a margin for error for throwaways, for satellite trails, plane trails, clouds.
You want to add on a few more because of those, because you get some space debris, satellites, airplanes, whatever, So that you may want to throw in there. So,
I was talking it over with Tyler, and I'm like, man, well, how much of this do I really want to nitpick? Do I want pristine images? He goes, Jason, if it's not in more than one image, or it's glaringly destroying more than 10% of the frame, it's going to get thrown out in the stacking process. Don't worry about it. Unless it's a series of plane trails that are going through every image, it's going to go away.
Right.
So, as long as you have enough images to get rid of, if you're only doing 10 images, you're not going to be able to get rid of it. You'll see it.
Right.
But if you're doing like I'm doing, and my baseline is I don't do less than 30, just as an arbitrary number. Because for me, that mathematically is where I get a good point on return from stacking and pulling the detail and eliminating the bad data. So I can let a couple of those errant high clouds go through, let a plane go through, let a satellite trail go through. Go ahead, Dan.
So people are getting me nervous. They're talking a lot of crap about my 4 minutes. I'm going to sit there. I'm going to sit there and I'm going to do the sensor analysis right now.
There you go.
And I'm going to see.
What you're going to see, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing, though, with sensor analysis. You're going to need a source of light.
Well, like a flat panel?
Get a flat panel, like your flat panel, or something like that. So you're going to need to do that. So
I can do that. That's no problem. I have that right outside. So I'm going to connect to the 294.
Yep.
And I'm going to go into tools and sensor analysis, right?
Yes.
Cannot run analysis. Color camera can only give accurate measurement in raw modes. All right, so I got to change the color.
Oh, yes, you have to switch your mode. Yes, you have to switch your mode.
So raw 8 or raw 8 will work, right? Okay.
Yeah, you want to go to the highest bit. So if you have raw 16, go with raw 16.
I do.
Okay, so go raw 16.
Okay, so I'm in raw 16. You need constant illumination, relatively low light levels for best results. Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is it telling me to do? Just put my flat panel on there?
What you want to do is you want to put your flat panel, turn it on, and then you want to get your illumination to a certain point where your histogram, where you're getting a nice straight line on your histogram, and it'll tell you if you're while it's going through the exposures, if you're too long, and so that way you may want to dim it down. You dim your light down.
So I want a straight line horizontally.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
So yep, on the histogram. Yep.
All right. So let's see. You guys can talk. I'll run outside.
Yeah. So sensor analysis is really cool because it will go through. It takes some time because you also have to go. So it also measures not just the illumination there, and it goes and it cycles through all of your different gain levels, and then it measures your black levels and everything, and it's pretty cool. And then once that's done, then you can then go ahead and use that information to compare. If you have information from the manufacturer, you can compare that analysis to what the manufacturer has shown when they've done their analysis of that camera you just purchased, and you can see how far in line you are with what the manufacturers are telling, what the manufacturer's rating is telling you. And then it can, and then you have the smart histogram. It'll give you some really good ideas as far as those exposure times. Because the one thing we don't have any more of, they don't make enough of, is time. So you want to, take the time that you have, and which is one reason why I love one-shot colors, is because you can image, with that one camera, one filter, and, you're done. And that's another reason why I love, even though I haven't used it lately, is the RASA, is because you can shoot as many of these different targets as you can during one night and take advantage of the time that you have, in between bad weather situations or whatever else is going on. So this sensor analysis and the smart histogram is really cool.
Well, and that's honestly one of the things that's kind of kept me from wanting to dive into this narrowband imaging and dealing with mono. I was really afraid of, because we get a lot of clear nights here, but as my business starts ramping up, hopefully, I'm not going to have that type of time, or it's going to take me months to be able to gather the data.
Right.
Because I can't remote, well, I'm sure I can figure out ways to remote in and turn my system on, but I still have to have my wife or somebody go out there and fix the polar alignment and whatnot. Because it needs a tweak every day.
That's when you get your peer.
Well, see, the thing is, I have a tri-peer, so everything's set up and it pretty much stays out there under a 360. But every night I still have to make a little tweak to the polar alignment. It's never much; it's less than a minute and a half.
Yeah.
But every night just needs a little tweak, because the unfortunate thing with the Ioptron product is, even though there's a home, it's not a mathematical constant. It's a rough landing zone.
Okay.
So, and especially after you've been balancing and everything, there's no mark to go put it back on like an AVX. And even though you tell it to go home,
you go to home, you go to zero position, and stuff like that. It's basically, you can set that. You can set it to be any orientation you want. You can set zero to be whatever you want, and then that's the way it is.
Yep.
It's not like to your point, like with the CGX or the AVX, where it has those markings.
Yep.
And you know exactly where you're at, where you're at home.
Yep.
All right, so this is what I got right now.
Okay. And like I said, it'll tell you. Now you want to get a small. That square's too big. You want to reduce that square size to much smaller than that. It can be pretty. It can be really. It can be pretty small. And then so make that nice and small. Does it? Yeah.
Something like that.
Something like that. There you go. Something like that. Or you can even go smaller than that. But now, okay, you start taking a look, and it'll tell you. Right now at the top, it's probably going to come up with a few errors and let you know, hey, your illumination is still, or it's exposing. The exposure is too.
It was, and it was saying it was taking too long, so I brightened it a little bit.
Yep.
And now there's no errors there. Now it just says the exposure time required is getting too long. Go brighter.
Yeah. So it's a playing game a little bit. You can even.
So I need to go brighter. I went pretty bright on that flat panel. I guess I got to go brighter than that.
Yeah, you may have to.
All right, so I'll pump it up a little more.
It's one of those things where you've got to increase that brightness, and sometimes you may have to start over again, and then until you get to that sweet spot, then you can proceed. So using the flat panel or anything like that, it'll, Dan will get it here. It won't take him too long, hopefully. And then it'll go through the whole process.
So while we're talking about flat panels, I've upgraded to the Spica flat.
You have. You got it from Wisconsin. They finally got it to you.
Finally got it. So... But one of the things that I've fought with is being able to do flats during daylight. So I've built, and I'm looking at patenting, a shroud that'll basically go over the Spica flat.
Yep.
So that you can take
saw that.
Basically black it out so that you can do your flats in the middle of the daylight without the light spill.
That would be awesome, man.
So once I get done with a little bit more prototyping and start down the protection path, then I'll go ahead and debut it.
There you go. I think you're set now, man.
Yep. So it looks like I guess green is good.
Green is good. You're ready to roll.
Except for the red proceed button. But I guess green is good. So basically, what it's telling me to do is to get it bright. Now I got this flat panel pretty bright. I mean, it's bright. I mean, a lot brighter than I've used for any other filter that I've ever seen. So I don't know if that's a indication of the Bayer matrix or something, but it's very, very bright. What's that?
Okay. Can you go? Is it still? Can you proceed yet, or no? Is it still?
Yeah. I can proceed.
Okay.
Now it says checking sensor bit depth. Waiting.
Yeah. Now it'll fluctuate with its. It'll go through.
Looks like it's doing a bunch of different frames.
Measuring your ADU and everything. And then once it's all done, you start measuring everything out, and then you get that graph there to the right.
Yep. Yep.
And it's as long as it's like going down diagonal in a straight line, you're pretty good.
Yeah, it was diagonal, and then it looks like it. Now it's doing a signal.
It's going to go through these measurements pretty quickly.
Now it's doing a signal percentage, so it's going diagonally up.
Yep. And it'll fluctuate during, between different types of exposures, your gains.
Yep.
It'll change all that around so I can do a proper measurement.
This is interesting. I should have done this with my S-Big a long time ago.
And like I said, what I was mentioning to everybody and I was talking to Jason is that this is really cool because then you can take this data, you can save it to, a clipboard and put it into an Excel spreadsheet. Then you can take that data and compare it to the manufacturer's information and see how
Gotcha.
and see how it compares to that. And then once this is done, then and then you only have to do this really once, as long as all the data is, you don't change computers or anything like that, and it's already saved in data. And then you can go ahead and do, your smart histogram checks, and it'll start doing its analysis and checking out, that dark part of the sky, or the clear part. Or whatever.
Well, the good thing is I'm pointed at the Leo Trio, and it's almost at the meridian right now. So
okay.
So it's pretty fairly straight up. It's as dark as I'm going to get, I guess.
Yeah. So, because usually what they want to do is I think they said, not dark, but you don't want to have too much. You don't want that area of the sky to be too busy. You don't want
stars that are clipped. No, for the smart histogram. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, don't do this pointed at the Milky Way. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Cover the sensor. Hold on. Cover the sensor. Now it's telling me to cover the sensor. So
now
I guess it wants to do some darks.
Yeah, do some darks. Check your black levels. That's one thing, Jason, that I'm really looking forward to, because I know we talked about this in the past. Is now this time of year, usually between I think it's February or March, up till probably July, August timeframe is when you can really start seeing, if you're interested into landscape astrophotography or widescape, doing your Milky Way, and you can be able to get to the galactic core and everything. So
starting usually late March, early April, you'll start seeing the core in the wee hours of the morning, usually between 1 and 3 a.m. And as we get further into summer, closer to July, then you'll start seeing it right at sunset. And it'll continue through the horizon, or through zenith, till sunrise. And then most of the core and stuff will be up at that point during daylight. So
and so because I actually purchased for my phone, because you're a photographer, or you do more photography than I've done, but there's this app called Photo Pills. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
Yeah, I've used that before.
Yeah, so I've actually purchased it, so I'm learning it now, and it has a nice little tool there for letting for your planning, so you can do all your planning and stuff like that. And especially for night photography, night sky photography, especially if you're going to go after the Milky Way, it'll let you know where the galactic core is going to be, and in its orientation and stuff like that. So it's going to be kind of cool. I'm looking forward to really trying this out.
I use that one because that's really good if you're going to a location. You can do a pen drop, so you can see what the sunrise and set is going to be. If there's going to be a moonrise or set. And then from that, you can then usually go take and pull the coordinate off of it. I'll drop the coordinate then into something like Sky Guider or Sky Safari. And then I'll adjust the time to the time of day that I plan to shoot, or time of night. Because then I can physically look at an augmented reality image of what the Milky Way would look like roughly from that angle, and then I can basically, based on that pen drop, I can pan and be able to tell roughly what my framing and stuff would look like.
Yeah, it's really nice, and it's really good. It looks like what they call it, time lapse?
Yep.
You can do time lapse. It'll help plan out a time lapse really well and stuff like that. So, no, I'm looking. Yeah, those are going to be kind of cool. So, because I think I mentioned to you, I got the 24 millimeter Samyang.
Yep.
So I've got that. So I've got that for my 6D, and I can't wait, because actually my 6D will be back. It looks like it'll be back tomorrow from Canon, and everything will be fixed. So then that way I can start playing around with it and getting used to a full frame camera. So I'm looking forward to trying it out.
All right, so now it says uncover the sensor for gain measurements.
Yeah.
But it's
So that's
red.
gonna match your green and stuff.
So it's red. Is that okay? No, I can't proceed. So why not?
You gotta take. Have you removed your cover? You gotta uncover now.
It's uncovered.
Turn back on
I
your
see
light.
stars.
Turn back on your light. Turn back on the.
I gotta put. It's not the sky. It's the flat frame again.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh. Okay.
So you had to turn back on the flat panel again. So and it's at that same setting as far as the light, the illumination setting.
But yeah, the photo pills is a great tool. The other one is Photographer's Epithemius.
I'm sorry?
The Photographer's Epithemius is also a really good one. It's a freeware, but it gives you the ability to save points, and you can change time of day and things like that. So you can put where you're going to be, and then you can change the time to see what it's going to do. It gives you a ton of graphs. Very helpful.
Nice.
Man, I'm going to lose weight tonight.
You're getting some steps in now, man.
Oh, man, I'm getting my steps in. So it says uncover. The sensor needs to be uncovered. Target image brightness achieved. Proceed.
Yep.
And now it's doing some more images.
Yep. Down to measure your gains and everything.
Now the end.
That's Photographer's Epithemius.
Okay, that looks a lot like
It is very similar, and you can change your time of day and all that stuff.
Okay, and what's that app called?
TPE, the Photographer's Epithemius.
Okay.
And I believe it's both on Android and iOS.
Nice.
Right, it's doing something. Oh, checking binning. Right. I don't know why it's checking binning because.
All right, there you go.
All right, so what do we got here? Tell me what we got here.
So basically, now it's giving you your gain and the electron per ADU, and your relative read noise based off of each gain, setting. So now, and you can compare that and you can take that and you can save that data for future use. And then, but basically your analysis is done. And it's basically also gives you your information on your full well depth.
Yep, I see it.
Relative read noise based off of each game.
I'm actually taking a picture of it right now, so
you can actually save it. I thought there was a button where you can. I don't know if you have to expand a little bit. On
because it's probably because. Yes, copy data to clipboard. Yeah, it's because the hold on a second. We're gonna stop share, and then I'll reshare with the real screen so everybody can see it.
Okay.
And hold on a second. I gotta minimize the this Live Studio. Where is it? VMix and toggle screen sharing, and we'll go back to screen one and share that, and then we'll go back to there we go. Now you can see it, right? So right here is copy data to clipboard right here. Okay.
Yes. So so you copy that, and then what you can then do is fire up a notepad and paste it, and then save it as a CSV file, and then import that into Excel. So copy and paste it, and you can save it.
File, save as, and now you can save it as a CSV.
Oh no! If you go to all files, if you drop down all files, if you click on where it says text document and choose all files. Now type in your file name, then .csv.
Oh, okay. Duh. Sorry.
Yep.
And we're going to save that to desktop so I know where the hell it is later.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, so now whenever you want, you don't have to do it right now. You can then open that up in Excel and make a table and manipulate it. But now you're ready to actually go into tools and go to histogram. At the very top. Yep. Now you can click on the brain under histogram. Yep, right there. Click on the brain. Now you can do your smart histogram. Now you can measure. So you point to a dark area of the sky, and you can do your. It'll measure the sky.
I'm straight up. So.
Okay, well then that's fine. So what you want to do is you can put in. Okay, what do you want your minimum exposures to be? So under options, so usually I'll put that as, say 15 seconds or 30 seconds or something like that. And what your maximum exposure is going to be, you can say, okay, I only want to, shoot as long, the max exposure I want is 10 minutes. That's as far as I want to go on my exposures. So you can do that, or you can even put it to 30 or something. And then you set your stacking time. You want to say, okay, I don't want PixInsight to run for more than 2 hours, doing my stacking, or 60 minutes, which that's just fine now. Now you can go ahead and click measure at the very top. So go ahead and click measure. And now it'll begin to measure your sky brightness. And it's based off of per.
It's going to be like 21.
Yeah. So then. So it'll go through and it'll measure your sky brightness I believe it's based off of electron per ADU. So it's not like, if you've used an SQ, it won't give you like an SQM number.
Gotcha. I'm sure there's some sort of mathematical equation where it'll convert it.
It'll give you what it says is your optimal exposure and gain. But the really cool thing is that once the chart comes up, you can actually, the bummer is that you can't save the chart that's going to show here, which I wish, maybe I can reach out to Robin Glover and see if there's a way to save the chart, or, export it and re-import it, because then you can move around within the chart and look for, okay, say if you've got a dark library that's at a certain gain and you don't want to, go through making a new dark library, you can go through the chart and go to that gain setting, and then it'll tell you based off of that gain, what your optimal number exposure time would be.
Okay.
So it'll give you that information, and then when you have your optimal exposures, your number of exposures, what I've done is I've added those two numbers up, and then that gave me my idea of, okay, total amount of time based off of that camera and that filter that I'm using. It gave me those numbers that I showed earlier as far as the total amount of time that I would use, that it was recommending that I would need. For that, filter or what have you, for that session.
So is this doing anything right now?
It is. It should be measuring.
Well, it says adjusting exposure for gain.
Yep. So yeah, it's going to be going through a few things. So
hey Dan, do you have the flat panel off there now? It should be looking at the sky, right?
Cancel. Okay, so click cancel and take the flat panel off.
Jeez. See, you know what? I'm rushing. I know Abby's ready.
He's nervous. He's nervous.
No, I know Abby's ready to go to bed. So.
Yeah, she's checked in a couple of times. Is it my turn yet?
Is it my turn yet? It's coming, Abby.
I just sent her away for 5 more minutes, so. But yeah, once we get to that part, I'm hoping to be able to get the flat panel light shroud all figured out.
Be awesome.
I'm like 90% there, but I had a material sourcing issue, so I had to resource material, which will be in on Friday. And then hopefully this weekend I can knock out a prototype or two, make sure it's good, and then I got to start through the look at whether or not it's worth patenting going through the whole process of patenting it, or just see if I can sell 30 units and be happy.
Okay. Measure, right?
Yeah, now you're okay. Now you're good. Now go ahead and measure.
All right, measuring.
And then you'll notice when it starts to measure over on your camera control panel, it'll start switching and moving around gains and exposure settings and stuff like that.
Right now, it doesn't look like it's doing much of anything. Do I? Nope, it's not doing anything. Do I need to make this square bigger or leave it that size?
No, you're no, because that's all done now. So it's basically just running the smart histogram from what I understand, from what I know, and that's it. So are you even exposing right now?
No, it is exposing because I am seeing it's processing frames. His frame count keeps going up. He's dropped 4 frames.
Okay. Yeah.
He's getting a half a frame a second. So it is processing something.
Okay.
But no, the gain and the exposure time is not moving at all.
They're not moving at all.
And it looks like it's good. Do I need to redo the smart histogram because the light panel is on there, maybe?
Yeah, if you want to, you should be. You can go ahead and cancel, and then go ahead and go back to histogram and.
Yeah, histogram's already checked. Just touch the brain.
Yep. Yeah, just go ahead and touch the brain. Yep. Yeah, I'm not sure.
There we go.
There it goes.
There we go. Now it's moving. So now.
So
now we wait.
Yeah, because now it's going through, because you see there on the lower right, it's running through every frame.
Yeah.
And then it'll begin to give you some more information. And
so I guess it's done.
Wait a minute, it's done. So basically, it's right there. So it measured your sky brightness based on electrons per pixel. Your optimal gain is 119, and what are you using? A 294?
Yeah.
Okay, so basically, optimal gain is pretty close to what it would be, which is ZWO is rated at gain is 120, Unity is at 120, so you're right there. So they're saying optimal exposure is 32.9 seconds, and your number of exposures is 109. So basically, if you wanted to add up those two numbers or multiply those two numbers, 32.9 times 109, it'll give you pretty much your value as far as time, total amount of time. So if we take 32, I'm just going to run up to 33.
Yeah, well, that's like 50 minutes.
But it's an hour. So it's basically saying,
it's 60 minutes.
Right now, for what you're doing right now and the filter you're using, you only need basically an hour's worth of time, and you can divvy that up to say 12 5-minute exposures or what have you.
And if I'm reading that right, Eric, it's actually saying his sky brightness is 8.47
electrons per pixel.
Electrons per pixel per second. Yep. So, like I said, it doesn't give you like the SQM number like you were used to with, like your sky measurers. But
now, hold on. So that 1 hour is good for
that filter that you're using.
But what am I getting out of an hour? I guess that's my question.
That's it. Basically, what it's telling you is that all you need is an hour, and that is all you really need to take this photo or for this imaging session. And then you can divide that. So say instead of doing 109, 33-second exposures, you can do
like 55, 1 minute or whatever.
Oh, well, yeah, you can do 1 minute, 61 minute exposures, or what have you.
Yeah, but I guess what I'm getting at, in 1 hour, I don't think it's going to get the data that I need to get in 1 hour.
You don't think so?
Much. I mean, I will be happy to do 1 hour at 32 seconds right now and check it out later. And I have no problem doing it.
I would say maybe not do the 33 seconds, but maybe you might want to go and do 2-minute exposures.
Yeah. So what he's saying, Dan, is you need to look at the total of that multiplication. So you need an hour of data. However you want to break it up, an hour of data is the max you're going to be able to see a reward. So you either do 109 of those 33-second exposures, or you can do, 50 or 30 2-minute exposures.
Yeah, or what
I find that hard. I find that hard to believe that the most data that I'm going to get in the first 1 hour.
Yeah, isn't that crazy? So basically, what it's saying is the smart histogram is saying is beyond you imaging more than an hour, you're not going to get any more return on your time or investment beyond that 1 hour worth of exposure.
Well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take 3 hours tonight. I'm going to take 3 hours tonight, and I'm going to do it I'm going to do 2-minute shots.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll do 100. What is it? So 3 hours is 180. So that's 92-minute shots. So I'm going to do 92-minute shots, and I'm going to stack 1 hour and 3 hours, and we'll see if there's a difference.
And exactly.
That's a good test.
And then test and see how it turns out.
Because I find it hard to believe that I'm not going to get any return on investment. If I do that, I'm literally going to shoot myself. Because if that's the case, then I wasted a whole bunch of imaging time getting. Don't get me wrong. Shooting narrowband is very different, and I'm sure that I will need a lot more time than what this is telling me to get the data that that I'll need to get good data. Because the light pollution, the sky brightness goes down quite a bit when you're shooting narrowband. So we'll see. That's a good test. So let's close out the show with that. Because I will start tonight. I will do my 3 hours, and maybe I'll stay up and watch some Star Trek. I know Abby is so excited to close out the show. She's our favorite. Let me turn this off so we can see her. And I stopped sharing.
Then you got to refresh.
I got to refresh, and I want to save that. I don't want to
Uncle
close
Joshy
this
and Auntie
out.
Rebecca say hi. Wave and say hi, Uncle Joshy and Auntie Rebecca.
Hi, Uncle Joshy and Auntie Rebecca.
You got other people watching?
Yeah, we've got some family that tuned in today, so.
Nice.
Oh, that's nice. And
Oh, there he is. There's Dan the man.
Hi, Dan.
what's up?
And there's Mr. Eric. Say hi, Mr. Eric.
Hi, I'm Mr. Eric.
Hey, how
I'm
come?
in my dog dress. It's
Hey, how
not
come
for my
he's Mr.
birthday.
Eric? How come
I'm
he's
5
Mr. Eric?
now.
You're 5 now. Happy birthday!
Yep. When was your birthday? On Monday?
Monday,
So you're more than
5th.
so you're 5 years and 2 days then, right?
Yep.
You're getting old.
Yep, you
get
can see
gray
the gray
hair.
hairs now.
Yeah, you're gonna get gray like this. Hopefully, it's just not on your chin.
Well, happy birthday.
Did you enjoy your birthday?
Thank you.
Did you enjoy it?
Mhm.
Say we're
Did
having.
you shirt?
We didn't get the shirt yet.
Oh, all right, it's coming. It's on its
in
way,
the
I
mail.
promise. Don't give me that look. I'm sorry. It's not my fault. It's the mail. You
Silly
give me an
mail.
evil look.
Silly mail.
I
Yeah,
know.
silly
It's
Becca has
horrible.
to go and get mail.
Yeah, we'll have to go get it, huh?
Mhm. We can go and get it tomorrow.
Yep, Daddy went today and it wasn't in there yet.
It's got to be. I'll try and. You know what? I'll try and track it. I'll see where it is.
It's all good.
Leave the big screen over there.
Yep, that's where Daddy's monitoring the feed, so I can see that it's other places too. But this is the one that we're talking to the people live. Okay, you ready to say our line? Close out for the night?
You ready? Oh, she's putting her earpiece back in.
Neighbors nodded.
Okay, hurry up, because you're pulling on Daddy's ear. You ready? Say your line.
Keep imaging, keep educating, and clear skies. We'll see you next time on AstroWorld TV.
Bye-bye.
Hey, everybody.